Can you smell the petrol in the air yet? Today you're going to see the weirdest motorsports moments, flying cars, unbelievable somersaults, and many more interesting highlights. Stay tuned till the very end, you won't regret it. The start of the Russian Grand Prix in Sochi was disappointing for Formula One drivers. The session's start had to be postponed due to a diesel spill on the track's surface. But it was removed within half an hour, and drivers continued their training session. Meanwhile, Carlos Sainz Jr.'s story had only just begun. Turn 13 played a cruel joke on the Toro Rosso pilot. The Spaniard lost control due to problems with the brakes and crashed into the guardrail. In Carlos' defense, the track there is really complicated thanks to the sharp left before the right turn. But the fact that the car crashed into the bump in almost a straight line without slowing down really makes you wonder. Share your opinion in the comments. Should the FIA use gravel or asphalt in the departure zone? And if the Sainz accident is an open and shut case, how do you explain the karting race in Genk, Belgium? 12 karts flew off the track at one corner. It seems that collective intelligence played a large role here. Look at the way that MotoGP pilot came out of the low side. But what's this? It looks like he didn't expect the high side to catch up after all. That looks painful, don't you think? It's a good thing they make it compulsory to wear airbag protection. Otherwise, the rider would have been in some serious trouble. Unique footage, flying wheels and flying cars. Looks like we'll be seeing Batmobiles at the races soon. This member of the press will be remembering this moment for a long time. What saved him? Fate or a great reaction? Thomas Laurent knows firsthand how a driver can turn into a passenger at the very whim of a car. The 24 Hours of Le Mans is a tough test of endurance. The number 3 Rebellion fell out of the race by 4 minutes in the 7th hour. As a result, Laurent dropped out to 5th place. Did you know that in early races, speed was not the main factor in winning? Funnily enough, the winner was the one who reached the finish line with the least number of breakdowns. And the cars were accompanied by a media representative on a bicycle. Drag racing fans weren't likely to enjoy a show like this, unlike Mike Bowman's spectacular finish at the Gateway Motorsports Park in Madison, Illinois. His E3 Spark Plugs Pro mod, based on the 1969 Chevrolet Chevelle, covered the quarter mile in 5.89 seconds, but at the finish line, his brake parachute failed to open. The dragster simply hung from the safety net. Passionate about online games, the Marvel Universe, and love steaks? You have a good chance of becoming a race car driver. For example, Santino Ferrucci made his professional debut at the age of 14 and won Rookie of the Year in his first race at the Indianapolis 500. Of course, even this prodigy was not always lucky. Santino was caught offside on the second corner by a strong gust of wind. Lucky guy got off only with a slight leg injury. When you see multi-million-dollar cars falling apart, Marcus Ericsson's crash was the highlight of the second practice session of the Italian Grand Prix. The Sauber driver was thrown to the side at the end of the starting straight. The car flew into a bump, and after, the collision flipped him several times. Again, the DRS system failed the pilot. Another great save. Bravo, maestro! What is it? Evil fate, or just an inadequate assessment of your car's technical capabilities? Victory seemed so close, but the height and the power of gravity remained unconquered. The Nürburgring is the dream of every person with gasoline in their blood. Who hasn't tested their cars here? 33 left-hand corners, 40 right-hand corners, a drop of about 980 feet. It's a dream ride. And it's no secret that odd situations often occur here, like what happened to the BMW E46 M3. But the funniest thing is the pilot's reaction to losing his door at 174 miles per hour. Confrontation between rivals is understandable, but when teammates start to antagonize each other, it reaches a point of absurdity. What a disaster for the Mercedes. Perhaps the UFC should consider putting Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg on the active roster, especially after their behavior at the Spanish Grand Prix. After Fernando Alonso's epic collision with Esteban Gutierrez in Melbourne, you realize that even such recognized professionals remain vulnerable to fatal errors. The Radical SR1 Cup is for those who don't yet have a racing license. It looks like one of those racers was inspired by Chick Hicks from Cars. Deploying parachutes at that speed? Drag racing is definitely for lovers of all things extreme. Bred in circuses? Check out this test drag race. It's just as interesting as the competitions themselves. A Grand Prix without adventure? Nonsense. This time it was the collision between Red Bull Racing drivers Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen on the 40th lap. The ARCA races are no less spectacular. No one expected such a story from Jesse Ekin-Udui, who received the Move of the Race award in his time. What do you think of Patrick Gallagher and his Aston Martin's performance in the Pirelli GT4 America race? That's harsh. The Top Race Junior at the Juan and Oscar Galvez Autodrome in Buenos Aires also shines with talent. Another story in this category, but from the Ciudad de Paraná circuit. One wrong move and a massive collision is inevitable. Racers at the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge in 2021 also distinguished themselves with their bumper-to-bumper friendship-making skills. The Daytona 500 is the best proof of Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Is this deja vu? Yet another collision at the Juan and Oscar Galvez circuit in Buenos Aires. At Super TC 2000 races, you can find fire spewing from the nostrils of the cars, straight from under the pilot. Do you think that Formula One car wrecks are an unbelievable spectacle? See what happens at the Thruxton Motorsports Centre track in the British Truck Racing Championship. What caused this collision between a Toyota Corolla Altis GR Sport and a Vios Lady One Make race? Was it driver inattention that neglected the yellow flag, or poor planning at the race? Write your opinion in the comments. Once again, the Argentinian circuit races impress us. This time the pilots could not overcome yet another turn in the Parque Ciudad de Rio Cuarto. Strange, you would think that high car noises are a thing of the past, so that they don't fly up when bumping into the car ahead of them, but they still manage to hop on top of each other. And while those last pilots performed their hot bachata, the Burra Circuit racetrack in Thailand had cars waltzing down the track. This next video is again devoted to dancing. And how else can we call this pilot's lone exit over the fence, if not an Argentine tango, just emerging in the port areas of Buenos Aires? Though this incident did happen on the Parque Ciudad de Rio Cuarto racetrack. At the Renault Formula Support race in Italy, Christian Ricciardi outdid himself in acrobatics. What an incredible somersault! However, an even more virtuosic multiple somersault was performed by a driver at the International Circuit of Tirana, Brazil. Doesn't it seem like the racer is more upset about the damage to his car? And it's Argentina again, in the air yet again. The Robert Jose Morris Circuit in La Plata traditionally hosts one of the most prestigious races of the Auto Body Championship, the TC 2000. Judging by the scene, racers here too are fighting not only for prizes, but also for a most spectacular stage. ADAC GT Masters 2020 drivers in Hockenheimring, Germany also had their fans feeling nervous. One of the 13 bends of the track became a bottleneck for the 3 drivers. This is more like a triathlon now. But in motorsports, apart from steep turns, blowouts, and masterful somersaults, there are quite a few odd moments as well. For example, this pilot's Sparco Spa steering wheel almost caught a collision. That's true, you have to hold this steering wheel tight. The actions of a young NASCAR driver are interesting to watch, both on and off the track. Who is he? An extravagant troublemaker or a future racing star? He's either adored or hated, and this is another Noah Gragson scandal. Of course, Toyota representative Daniel Hemrick came up first, but he didn't even have time to voice his complaints before a hostile Noah shoved him on the side. The reason for the spat is obvious. Gragson miscalculated his speed and ran into Daniel's car inside of his box. Who do you think is right in this situation? While some argue with their fists after a race, others stage a dramatic comedy. How else would one react to the boyish antics of Wallace Jr., aka Bubba? Yes, Alex Bowman turned him around on lap 42, but is that an excuse to pour water on your opponent? Speaking of which, Wallace was later fined $50,000 for deliberately manipulating the competition. At least these races, there are no disputes for supremacy. Competitors move in an orderly manner towards the finish line. Admittedly, not all of them manage to finish by themselves. Some have to be carried to the finish line. And there are times when the competitors creep over the rails or stop along the way. But at least these Zoopolis 500 traditional race participants have some manners. Do you like the video? Leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. More interesting content is yet to come.